Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's FrostByte. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in and hanging out with me. Today, we have Tiger Stacker with us, and we're going to be talking about something that we've uh, discussed again. We haven't discussed a lot, but we've basically talked about in a couple items. You've heard people like Uncle Sal talk about this. And this is regarding the two bills that recently came up from Salivate Metal. Now, the two bills that came up from Salivate Metal that he talked about were new resolutions that were issued by the Texas state government looking at legislation on how they could utilize silver and gold as a backed currency. So, we're going to be looking at this real quick. We're going to be talking about some of the items, some of the nuances about this. We're not going to be on long. We're just going to kind of give you an overview. I'm going to give you some details and then we're going to kind of talk about some of the problems and questions that we have. So, hey, Tiger, how are you today?
I'm good. How's yourself?
Doing well. Thanks for coming up and hanging out with me and let's going over this. Again, I want to do this fairly quickly. I appreciate everybody for joining us tonight. Again, we're going to make this quick. I know we're streaming over a few people, but we'll make this pretty fast. So, the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about the actual core of what was issued by the Texas government. Hey, Coin Dude, what's going on? So the first thing that it was is you have two bills, 1056 and 1049. Now, 1049 was the one that talked about Texas utilizing um, gold and silver as a currency basis, right? A basis. Now, I want to be very clear about that. What that means is not that Texas is trying to produce their own currency. It means that they're going to back the new digital based transfer mechanism that they're developing off of silver and gold. So there are going to be some key phrases that we need to talk about in order to understand exactly what Texas is doing. So the first thing is going to be a CBDC. Now, when we say that, people are like, screw those. They suck. And I want you to keep that in mind as we talk about this. The second one is going to be in specie. Tiger, you just won my bank race. Steve, we'll be over there in just a second, okay? We won't be on very long. Did you see that, Tiger?
I saw that. In fact, Oregon just texted to me. I didn't know Steve was going to pop over.
All right,
But
we'll
thank
talk
you,
about that
Steve.
in a minute. Thanks, Steve. We'll be off in a little bit. But again, when we're looking at this, there's a couple things that we want to talk about. So in specie is something that talks about the same or in kind. So it's important to understand that Texas is not creating their own money. Okay, it's very important because that would be illegal. But what they're doing is they're creating a mechanism in which they can utilize the uh, the systems that we have to use silver and gold as a basis for that transfer. So we'll talk a little bit about what that actually means. The other thing when we're talking about in species from the financial realm, now again, Tiger and I are not financial advisors. We are not um, we're not the finance types, but the CBDC really interests us. Anything that combats control from the Fed, that takes control and puts that back into the state, puts that back into the hands of the people who actually own the money, is an extremely good thing. So we really want to talk about that. But again, it's important to understand the terminology and the language utilized when we're talking about things like CBDC. Hey, what's going on, Chad? Good to see you.
Hey, Jack.
The last thing that I want to talk about is I want to talk about Article 1, Section 10 uh, of the Constitution. Now, that states that there are certain things that the state can and cannot do. One of the things that the state can do is they can use silver and gold coin as payment for debt. Now, this is very important because it's that terminology, that language within Article 1 that states that Texas can actually accomplish this task. Now, this isn't brand new. This isn't something that is just happening specie, yeah, in specie. And it's important when you're talking about species, is not species as in cat, dog. It's in specie, and in
Antelope,
specie they mean the
wildebeest.
same type. Huh?
I'm just making a joke.
Yeah, well
Wildebeest.
let's just get on. We don't have very much time. I want to make sure we end up with
Understood.
this.
Understood.
So when we're talking in species, again, hey Bill, what's going on? I want to make sure we understand that we're not looking at a new variety of money. That's very important to understand. This is basically a mechanism in which they transfer the either the silver or the gold or fiat. Now it's very important that we understand that fiat is a part of this, okay? Because that is the legal tender. And it's important for people to understand that this particular set of bills that has been done ties to that. This is something that they're utilizing that as an alternative. And it's very important because Texas isn't creating paper money. They're not creating silver and gold money. They're utilizing that as a resource to transfer back and forth. This is where the CBDC comes in. The next thing we're going to talk about, and I'm going to break this out really fast, is some legislation that's going on the high end. And we're going to go over a couple of those bills. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that over to Tiger at that point, and we're going to talk about some of the elements, some of the items specifically relating to issues with the CBDC, some of the problems he's done research on and found, some of the conversations that he's had with Texas, or excuse me, West Virginia Delegate Chris Pritt, and some of the things that they're looking at doing, some of the things the states can do, some of the things the states can't do. And then we're going to wrap this up with just any questions. Now, Tiger and I are working on a collaboration. We're waiting to get feedback on whether or not these people will be able to come online. If so, we're actually going to be getting word from people who really understand Texas legislation, understand federal legislation, understand the Constitution way better than any of us can. So, as soon as we find out more about that, we'll reach out to you and we'll be letting you know. All right. So, Tiger, first off, let's go ahead and talk about some of the potential problems with a standard CBDC. So, what is your take on a standard CBDC?
Standard CBDC is much more scary than our standard paper version. In paper, we're cloth. That's actually more cloth than paper. Um, what happens is to create more money, you have to go to the printing press and they have to print it, and it's physical. You can touch it. You know where it's going because it's in the physical world. With CBDCs, it's all on the computer and it's in some sort of Ethereum, Ethernet, non-tangible. Can't figure out what it's all about. So you don't know how much. You don't know when it was made. You don't know where it was made. You don't know where it's gone to. I mean, it's unless you have a very powerful computer, you don't know what's going on. And this government was created for the people. It wasn't created for the government to control the people. It's for the people to control the government. Subsequently, how do you know where the control is? If you can't touch it, you can't track it, you can't put. You're going to have someone just as powerful as the government to be able to track them, which they're not going to like. I.e., in point, my closest example is Elon Musk, and ever since he has been trying to help Trump, they've turned on him. They want to get him out of the country. They want to take him out. They want to shut him down. And if the next person who becomes the next computerized guru in the topic of tracking the government, they're going to try the same thing. The government, as we have it right now, is more about censorship and control. And if you think about it, over the course of 4,800 currencies, over the course of 6,000 years, governments wanted to hold the real money, and they wanted to give tokens to the people. And the tokens we have are the paper currency. Now they changed that to a token that you can't touch, that you're going to need something digital, where they can track you, but you can't track them. They have no accountability. They have no desire. Uh, there is absolutely no desire at all to want to be of the people, for the people, and by the people. They want to turn this into a socialistic and, God forbid, a capitalistic society. And in that case, you have no control in your life. My wife, God love her, she was a little girl when the Soviet Union collapsed. Uh, but basically, what happens is that one day my wife ends up waking up, and her parents did too, because her mom was a dentist, her dad was an electrical engineer. I think he was an electrical engineer, and they did really well for themselves. And like everybody else, they had their money in the bank. And then one day they went to bed. The next day, everybody had a zero balance. Everyone
My
across
wife
the
was very much the same way. So,
exactly.
um, Tiger and I have that in relation that both of our wives are from Slavic descent. Um, and it's a real issue. It's a real problem.
Yeah, and they can do it electronically. Computer flip of the switch, done. And right now we're kind of digital anyway, because the banks don't really have the cash there. It's all on spreadsheets, on documents, and they just move the money on the computer, on the paper. But it's going to be so much easier for them to flip the switch, Zippo money, even the digital money. And in that process, there's a lot of concern, my concern too, that if you don't spend it, they'll take it away. They're going to put an expiration date on it. They're going to force you to spend it, because one of the components of money is the ability to save it and keep your wealth. If they take that component away, then everybody's going to want to spend it to support this economy, which is based on debt. It's just a better way to support the economy, and you have nothing to show for it. Going back to the same thing, I forget which person said this. You will have nothing and you will be happy. That's where they want us. If you keep in mind the quote from Norm Franz, gold is the money of kings, silver the money of gentlemen, barter the money of peasants, but debt the money of slaves. And our current society, our current finances, is nothing more than a debt instrument. It is no longer silver and gold certificates, no longer physical silver and gold. It is Federal Reserve notes, which is a debt instrument, a promise to pay. And how many times has our government and other governments failed in their promises? So if you think that's bad, when you go from something that you can touch and you can follow, paper money, to something that exists only in the digital world where you can't follow it, how in the world do you keep your freedom? If you don't, they don't like what you say, they don't like what you do, they don't like who you talk to, they don't like who you vote for. Boom, flick the switch, bye bye. It's that simple.
So there's a number of different reasons why CBDCs are potentially bad. And he's listed a few of them. So what I want to talk about is I want to talk about the difference between why what Texas is doing is a lot better than what the Fed had proposed a while ago. Now, there is something that I want to bring to your attention. This is that Texas did something last year in April. Now, this House bill that they've done is nothing new, folks. They've been trying to do this for quite some time. They've been trying to push this information and get this stuff out there and build this CBDC, I think, since 2017 was the initial thought process behind the proposal, but in 2023, sometime in April, they issued it. They finalized it, sent it up, and it got rejected. This is the reproposal of that particular bill that was out there. And that particular bill was SB 2336. That was the one from 2023. This one is House Bill 1049. So when you're looking at the difference between the bills, make sure you understand one is 23, one is 24, but they essentially have the same language. The difference this year is that they added a secondary one. A secondary one is regarding taxes and the proposed tax breaks that are there, and some of the things that happen regarding um, the fees that are associated with this new CBDC development. But before we kind of get into that, Tiger said something very important regarding the ability to make money disappear. Not only do we have to worry about control of that item. Now, I say that loosely because we're going to have the Texas comptroller who's going to be the person in charge of this particular item. They're going to be the ones looking at this. There's proposed 5 staff that's going to manage this for the state of Texas. Estimated cost for the initial kickoff is $26 million for the initial investment, 1.5 million for year two, and then $1 million base to manage this particular program every year thereafter. There's going to be charges associated with it. So the things that had to be adapted to this bill that was issued in 2023, rejected, now they're reproposing it, is those taxes and those fees. So I want to make sure you understand that it's going to be just like some of your checking accounts or your debit accounts. Every time you use it, you're going to be charged a little fee. But there's so many things that are reliant upon. So we'll kind of break into some of that. But the one thing that's different, the primary purpose, the reason that I like this over the other is twofold. Number one, it's backed by silver, gold, and precious metals. That's the bottom line. It's backed against something substantial. Now, Tiger said, and this is something that there's a lot of stackers. If you're a stacker, put a one in chat. And if you haven't done so already, please double tap the screen and give us a like for this, okay? We appreciate it. But again, if you're looking at this, you have to understand that there are there's nothing backed behind the Fed's money. It's ghost, it's air. They can create it when they want. There's nothing accounts for our dollar. If they turn it off, it's gone. There's nothing for us to account for it. However, in the CBDC that's created by Texas, at least you have its weight in gold or silver or whatever you've purchased against that. Now, it's going to be fractional, it's going to be a fractional component. So you're not having to buy full ounces of something. If you have enough to buy 1.1398 ounces of gold, then that's what you buy. If you have an ounce and a quarter that you can buy in silver and that's all you can purchase, then that's what you buy into. There's going to be a fee to buy it, and there's going to be a fee to get rid of it. So if you take it out from its source or if you use it, I don't have all the details on that. I don't think they're out there yet. But it's going to be a fee-based transactional fee that's going to be associated with this. And the purpose for that fee is going to be making sure to look at how it's done and track that, right? Because you're going to need somebody to manage that. The, it's backing is the GDP. Exactly, right? It's the money, right? So you have to have something. They can't sell more than they have. They can only sell what they've got. And so when they buy these, yes, they can currently do this. They can purchase some and then they can add it to it. So they can take some of that investment and they can put that back in there, fill up that coffer, right? So when you go to the Texas depository and you drop information off, I said repository, depository. The wrong one. Let's go to the repository. I don't want to make sure that we're not, putting stuff in the wrong place. Got to use the right language there. If you're
Speaking
taking
of
it to
that,
the Texas depository, huh?
speaking of which, could you make a difference? 'Cause not everybody understands the difference between a depository and a repository.
One is a place you put money, and then the other one is a place you deposit something for other purposes.
Okay.
Usually when you can't poop. So Azure, no country currently uses the gold standard. That is not true. There are other countries that utilize the gold standard, but not very effectively. There are other countries who utilize base metals or precious metals as the basis for that. Zimbabwe used one. There's other countries who have done it as well. However, that points to a potential problem. Um, That potential problem being management of that, right? Even though that Texas has this really good idea, we still have to understand how it's going to be managed. We still have to ask some serious questions. And I've got a video coming out Monday that's going to ask some of those particular questions. What we're here tonight to talk about is to confer two things, or three things actually. Number one, this is a legal move by Texas. They absolutely are within their rights to do this. Okay. Um, the other thing is that it's important. Yeah, as I said, I got to make sure that I don't say the wrong suppository, repository, depository. Yeah. So I said that incorrectly. I want to make sure I corrected myself on that. That was a little foo bar there. Um, but it's important to understand because a lot of people are like, no, you can't do this. The Constitution states, well, they're well within the rights within the Constitution. So, number one, the proposal that Texas is putting in place 100% is legal. Now, you want to know just how legal it is? I'm going to show you guys something. So, I'm going to share a screen, and it's going to be kind of hard for you guys to see, but um, I want to share this particular screen with you and show you. Um, this is going to be hard for you to see. Okay, so what you got here, and I'm going to scroll through here, and bear with me a little bit. HB House Bill 804. Okay, so now the premise of this, let me see if I can minimize this a little bit and make it a little bit easier for you to see. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I'll make it a little bit smaller. There we go. Now you'll be able to see this. And now you should be able to see this a little bit better. I'll bring this down so that you can see more of these. House Bill 804 to prohibit money and services from being engaged in CBDCs from the People's Republic of China. Obviously, there's a reason for that. We want to make sure that that happens, right? To amend Federal Reserve Act to prohibit the Federal Reserve Bank from offering certain products or services directly to an individual or prohibit the use of a CBDC, monetary policy, or for other purpose. Hey, folks, guess what? This is the Fed saying, we don't we don't want the states to do this. So if they're trying to stop the states from doing this, we might have potential issues. And that might point to, and Tiger said this before we came on, this might actually point to Texas being on a decent thing. So it's going to be interesting to find out what's going to happen with this one. Now, if you look at all these other ones, they're 25% in, but they're actually engaged in this one. So this one's actually past that initial point. They're actually looking at ensuring that they kind of protect their self assets. Whereas exactly what Checkstacker just said, Texas has to remain in the red for it to work long term. Well, Texas is trying to ensure that they shore themselves up. So if the SHTF happens, the people have access to something that has more worth than the fiat currency. Okay, so this is really important. So these are various bills. You can look these up. I am located at legascan.com. You can go through these. I'm not associated or affiliated with this group, but you can go, you can type in CBDCs and you can look through these and you can see which one of these you want to read more on regarding CBDCs. There's a number of different bills out right now. But the one that I'm looking at right now is specifically this one. I'm going to shift this over so you can see this a little bit better. This is the bill that we're talking about right here, Texas Bill 1049, filed on November 12th of 2024. It's at 25%, meaning that it's passed the initial bill at the House here in Texas, but it's going to be going up and it has to go through and it has to pass before it gets sent up. So this is the information. You can come to this one again. I'm on LegaScan. If you want to do it, just search for House Bill 1049. Now, when you look through here, you can see the summary. You can pull up the summary, and this gives you a nice little summary of who is engaged in this, who the responsible parties are, and who created this. And in this particular case, it's the Republican, Mr. Durazio, who's established this. He's actually in my sector. I've put in a request to find out more information about this bill from his office. He's one of the many people in which I've reached out to find out more about this because there's a lot of people that are really interested in this. There's a lot of people in identifying this, especially if you live in Texas. Hey, I might have a card, you have your little credit card. I might have a card in which I'm able to go and utilize that to pull money out in the form of gold and silver. Like I can actually go take out gold and silver against the stuff that I've bought in. Or if I want to go pay another bill and they don't take that money, I can utilize that and trade that money out for fiat, right? Normal dollars, and then take that to whatever location I want to utilize. So what's important about this, and I'm going to pull this up in here, and it's extremely wordy. You're not going to be able to see this, and I'm going to read this to you if you want me to. I don't necessarily need to read this entire thing to you. If you want me to, I'll read it. But I need people in chat to let me know that if they want me to read this so they understand the exact language. But it basically says this from a summation standpoint: we're not creating our own money. What we're doing is we're creating an item that allows people to trade physical assets for digital assets, to pay or trade in goods, to pay debt, or to purchase from a vendor. And that's basically what they're doing. But this transaction piece is based off of silver and gold. It's based off of the holdings of precious metals. And that is the important piece. That's why Tiger and myself are here today to talk to you about this, to make sure that you understand exactly what this bill is calling for. Now, I am going to, yeah, exactly. So, Gary, I have just drop that in chat if you want to know more about the various legislations. That is the CBDC one that I just dropped. The one above it is the Texas State House Bill, excuse me, 1049. That's the one that was dropped on November 12th. So if you want to read those, and I know that right now you're going to have a hard time clicking on those. I think that in this particular format, you can't click on the links, but I will make sure that it's put in the description down below. You can go through and you can go ahead and do that.
Which
Again,
brings
if you
me
haven't already done so, please do me a favor, smash that like if you're liking this. And you know what? Feel free to share us out as well if you want to.
which
Now,
brings me
what
to
Tiger is
but
pulling, go ahead.
okay, so you can exchange to get silver and gold. Now, is that going to be you can exchange to get silver and gold only from the Texas government, or can it be done at a coin shop, or that's not been decided? Because the way I also see the attempt for CBDCs is to eventually restrict us from owning any of it, any physical. They,
Okay, so here, remember, you're talking about two different CBDCs. This is the
well, I
important
understand
part.
what I'm saying. I'm saying
Right.
my fear is that the federal CBDC is going to try to restrict us from everything, including owning the physical, over
That's
time.
what House Bill 5403 that I just read states.
And
And this is why I said that they're trying to push legislation across that indicates that they don't want states doing this. Now, as far as your first question, can I go anywhere, use that card? I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to say no. I believe it's going to probably have to be set up much like your gold back is going to be. But instead of you taking a piece of, uh, 1,000th of a gram of gold and trading it into only about seven different people who allow for it in the entire state, this is going to be a state based thing. So most of your state bigger items will most likely accept this. I don't know if we have a full list yet. I don't think that they've issued that. But again, when we're looking at this, we're talking a lot more um, about the state looking at the preservation of people's wealth and protecting it from fiat. So, are you going to be able to go to a coin shop and use your card and trade it in? Um, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. They haven't got into the nuances of this yet because again, it's been proposed to create the currency. I don't know that they've really generated the details of how it could be utilized. It's not in the bill. This is why I've reached out to Representative Durazio's office and said, "Hey, I would like you to come up and talk about this, right? I've actually reached out and said, "Hey, I want you to come up. I want you to come on board. I want to discuss this because I want my constituents, the people that are members of my channel, but also member of your constituents here in the state of Texas, to understand exactly what this means for them." Um, so this is again, we're not that level into it. I don't have that information yet. What I'm interested in is the fact that if you take your credit card right now and you go to a coin shop, you can drop that money and you can buy gold or silver on credit, right?
Okay.
If you go to one of the Texas reserve areas and you say, I want to buy 200 ounces of silver, um, if you're authorized to do that, you can do that. You can use your debit card to do that. But what you can't do with the debit card is you can't withdraw silver and gold from it. You can only withdraw fiat from it, or you can only transfer credits, which are digital based currency, to the location or from the location in which you want to purchase or buy something. Remember, when we talk about digital currencies, we're talking about ones and zeros. That's all we're transferring. We never transfer dollars. It's never dollars until it's in the hand of the other person. It's ones and zeros. That's all this is. This one and a zero is backed by a precious metal. And that's something that we haven't had for a while. And this is why it's, I think, different than other CBDCs that are out there. Now, you have silver sitting down there, right?
Yes.
You could take that to the depository and deposit that against this card that they're talking about doing.
Okay.
So Check Stacker just said something and I didn't see it. A panel discussion with Rossi and Pritt. Don't know those names. Representative Chris Pritt. Actually, we have talked about that, haven't we, Tiger? You there? Hello? He stepped away for a minute. Yeah, so Durazio. Yeah, it's Durasi. Kind of confused me. But again, trying to get people up here who really understand the process. Now, I've had Tiger reach out to Representative Chris Pritt to say, "Hey, what is it about this? What do you know about this?" Right. So we're really trying to engage with legislation and find out. Now we haven't got representatives' comments back yet. We don't know whether they're going to accept. We don't know whether they're going to decline. We don't know that a lot of the details yet. This is something that we want to bring up because it's important for people to look at and it's important for people to understand. But Tiger and I are both working to make sure that we engage to bring you more information about this because this is a really important topic. It's important for me, someone who lives in Texas. But if Texas is able to engage this, are you back, Tiger?
I'm back. Sorry, I had to
Okay.
make a mad dash to the little boy's room.
Nah, no problem. Um, so
So I
Gary said the links work. That's outstanding.
I reached out to Chris Pritt while you were talking. I did check. I got no response back thus far. Although I did send it what a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. So maybe I'll send him a text sometime this week to see what he says.
Rocky Bruce, should I buy gold and silver? Always. But to be perfectly honest with you, I need some more information. Um, what are you looking to do? What's your endpoint? Are you looking to collect? Are you looking to stack? What is your endpoint? Which one has more upside? Um, Depends on who you ask. If you're looking at the potential value, silver has more. If you're looking at silver and gold in relation to its competition and offsetting things like inflation, gold is done very, very well. Silver seems to be a little bit more volatile. Gold is a little bit more stable. The issue with gold is that gold is expensive. A lot of people don't have that, $2,500 to buy a solid ounce. Some people do, some people don't. But a lot of people can spend 35 or 36 bucks and get you an ounce of silver. So there's a couple different reasons why I would say silver and a couple different reasons why I would say gold. If I had unlimited funds, which I obviously don't, I would be stacking gold. If I had semi-limited funds and I had enough money where it wouldn't hurt me to invest, five, $600 a month, I would buy one piece of gold and I would buy a few pieces of silver. I would buy more silver than I did gold because you're going to want to stack weight, right? So you're going to want to have more silver than you would gold in that regard. But when you look at total weight, if you have to bug out in any kind of hurry, gold is way easier. Um, one coin versus, three 10-ounce bars or four 10-ounce bars or 10 10-ounce bars or 30 10-ounce bars. It's a lot easier to take a 1-ounce gold coin than it is 30 10-ounce gold coins or silver bars, right? So again,
That's
what is your purpose for it? So you really have to ask that because whatever your goal is, so you say potential. If you're looking at silver and gold as an investment, you're looking at it incorrectly. Silver and gold is a hedge against loss, right? If you're looking for something to invest in, there's different, there's a whole bunch of things that you can invest in, but be very careful when looking specifically at silver and gold as an investment because they're volatile. There's too many things that affect their price, just like the stock market. And like the stock market, you can lose your butt real fast if you don't know what you're going for. So be
if I may
careful with that.
if I
Go
may
ahead,
add
Tyler.
in if I may add into that. Okay. When I first started into this, I originally wanted to do more gold than silver. Then I started realizing that gold is more, think of it more like a savings. They're both savings accounts, but gold is more of a savings account. It's a little more stable. Silver is a little less stable because it's also an industrial metal. People want it for other reasons. They're going to try to suppress the price. And if we have a pure SHTF situation happen, you're going to be using silver to buy small things, food, and paying your bills and stuff like that. Um, Gold, you're going to hold back. Let's say you owe $100,000, $200,000 on your home before it's paid off, and the government's going to say we're going to confiscate everyone who has not paid off their house. You're going to want to go right to the gold because more people want it, therefore it's more liquid. You'll get a faster return and with a lot less volatility, so you can pay off your house. The only thing is your government can't take the house from you or your cars or whatever's important to you. But me personally, when I had to sell, and I've had to sell a few times because life threw me some curveballs over the last 2 years. I sold my silver. I didn't touch my gold. Reason: gold is has some volatility, but it's generally going up. So if I sold here to buy the same thing back, I'm going to have to buy more, spend more fiat dollars to get back what I sold. Silver is more like this. And when I sold my silver, my plan was to, when I get strong again, to buy back a similar amount of weight. I run the chance that I might buy on a dip that's going to be similar to the price that I sold. I'm still rebuilding that finances. I went to my pawn shop where I sold my silver, and there's a number of the items that I sold that's still there. And if I had the capital, I could buy that back for less than what I sold it for. I sold it for about maybe 30 to 31, maybe $32 an ounce. And when I walked in there, it was at 29 and the next day at 30. So it depends on, you know, what you go in today's market. In my mind, if you have it and you have to sell it, I'd sell the silver and take care of your bills and then try to buy it back later because you have the chance with the volatility to get it back. But that's what I want to do. You can do you, I'll do me, but that's what I did.
Well, and again, we're not financial advisors. We're not giving. So the the comments that we make are our opinion and our opinion alone. We're not financial advisors. We're not telling you how to invest or how to stock your money or where to put your money in. We can give you based off of stuff that we know, but that's all it is. It's just us based off of the experiences that we have and our own strategic goals that we have developed ourselves. Now, I want to be very clear, Rocky. Thank you for the questions. And again, the thing that's important with what Tiger has said is that Tiger traded. I'm not going to give everybody the exact amount, but I can tell you that 30 plus bars, 10-ounce bars were traded when he sold to get some other stuff. Now, the other stuff was to pay for bills and things that needed to happen. Now, here's the kicker. When he sold that, if he would have had the money a month later, he would have been able to buy that back from the same place at less than what he got the money for. Because there's ups and downs, there's ebbs and flows in silver, and they're still within manageable amounts of money. If he would have taken 10 ounces of gold, and that's a lot of gold for this, would have say 2 ounces, for instance, and he would have done that, yes, the price would have come down, maybe $100, maybe $200, but you still would have had to have come up with that much money for a little bit of upswing. In the case of his silver, he could have got as much as, I think when we talked about this, Tiger, it was almost like a free 10-ounce bar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're looking at basically with silver at that point, he was able to save the price of a 10-ounce silver bar if he would have been able to buy it right back at that time.
Hmm.
But the problem with gold is that depending upon the gold that you're buying, and this is another question, it's better to buy. Is it better? I think the statement was made. It's better to buy bullion than coin. I agree most of the time, not always. There's something in numismatic value that you'll never see in bullion, and that is rarity and desirability, um, especially when you're trading in things like this as well. In an SHTF, are people going to care that it's a Carson City? No, but it carries a massive premium because it's a Carson City Morgan. Um, and so there are times in which I will far, and again, I'm a coin and collectibles guy. You see this stuff behind me, you see these coins. This is what I do, but I also stack, I also make sure that I do wealth preservation. So in my particular case, I'm going to be looking at it and weighing it, right? And I've done a couple of videos where it's like, do I take the deal or do I take the the lower price or the deal? Which one do I take? Because in some cases, depending upon what you're looking at, you might have a way better deal buying the numismatic coin than the regular bullion because the person who has it doesn't understand the numismatic value. Tiger and I have done something with the peace dollars to show people as an example of this. And in his stack, he doubled his stack in a trade with me. Now, monetarily, the value was a 1 for 1. But in his stack, in his weight, he doubled his stack in the price and the coins that he traded with me because of the numismatic value that was inherent to those particular coins. So, in many cases, yes, the bullion is going to be the best place to go, but sometimes the numismatic value is going to carry some weight. When you do that, though, be careful not to fall into the FOMO trap. FOMO, FOMO, fear of missing out. Don't fall into the FOMO trap of label chasing. And we talked about this in this morning's stream. Okay. Buy the coin, not the holder. Sometimes it's okay to buy the holder, but buy the coin. So make sure you understand the true value of the coin that you're buying, whether that be silver, whether it be gold, platinum, palladium, copper, doesn't matter. Understand the value of that coin. What are you showing us, Tiger?
I'm showing you 1873 seated Liberty quarter that is in awesome condition. And this is not stacking. This is total collecting. $390, but you're not going to see very many of these in this condition. So I'm trying to give you a difference between this. This is a little bit of stacking, maybe a little bit of collecting because it's old and depending on what it is. This right here is your typical American Silver Eagle. And at the time, I paid $32 for it, which was March of this year. And here is typical bullion, Canadian bullion. Both at the time, Queenie was in power and now Chucky's in power. But the point is that this is a little bit more of stacking, and not very much collecting. It does have a little bit higher of a premium because it's Canadian and they do great work. This has a little bit of a premium because people in America want to buy American products. Where this right here is just a straight round. It's not a coin at all. It has no numismatic value. It has no government premium value. It's just a Christmas round that is nice, but in selling, buying, that you're going to spend less money on this than you would something else. So the point is, what do you want to do? Do you want to stack weight? Do you want to stack government issued coins? Do you want to stick only to American coins? Do you want to go for something that has, are you going to be a numismatist where you're going to love all the ins and outs of history and then be able to tell everybody about the history of this? I've just recently learned about this from watching Frosty's channel, the GSA Horde, where our government didn't even know this stuff existed. They found it. And they went to
Right.
President who said, go ahead and sell it.
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of it. Now, do you know why that they did that? They did that because we were getting off the silver standard. They had all those silver. How many of you guys have you seen the silver certificates? Those are the dollar bill with the little blue seal, right? Those were silver certificates. Those dollars, those bills, were tradable for 1 ounce of silver. And in 1963-64, where they did away with that, they no longer had a silver-backed currency. They no longer had those silver bills. It was no longer valuable to do that. So they no longer, exactly that right there. That little blue note, if you look down there, it says payable in silver. When they changed that in 63, 64, it was no longer viable. So they had these, millions and millions of gold or silver coins stashed away, and it's important for people to understand that they were there because they had to be there, right? And so when they were done, they were doing an audit. They're like, oh my God, we got a whole bunch of these. We need to sell these. And some of them were very, very rare. Some of them went for massive amounts of money. But many of them ended up in these Carson City holders. And they're highly collectible. But as a warning from me, the numismatist, be very careful when buying those Carson Cities and make sure you know what's authentic and what's counterfeit, because there's a lot of counterfeits, not only just the holders, but the Carson City Morgans as well. So let's go ahead and tag back into the CBDC. So I'm going to end here in just a few minutes, just because I wanted to make it really simple, really easy. Talk a little bit about this, kind of talk about why we think it is or isn't a good thing. So, Tiger, let's each give 1 point why we think it's good and why we think it's bad that Texas is proposing this CBDC. Go ahead.
The biggest reason, I'm fed up with the lies and the deceptions and the things that have happened for well over 100 years. I could go on and on and on about what's happened over the 100 years because I love history. And I also love knowing, the lessons I taught my grandfather and I try to teach. But I don't trust this government. Okay. Dem, Republican, red, blue. I don't have a lot of faith in them. Okay. And yes, I have more faith in Trump than I do in anyone on the Democratic side. But he's human too, and he can make mistakes, and he has made a couple mistakes, which I really wish he didn't. He almost put us in deep trouble with the aviation. That's another story. But I don't trust the government. Now, Trump is pushing for us to be the world leader in cryptocurrency. My personal belief, I'll get to the point. My personal belief is that we are going to be using cryptocurrency as an introduction to government controlled CBDCs. It's just a way to get you used to it so that you don't fight. It's the type of techniques they've been using for decades. So I'm not a big fan of crypto. I watch crypto very carefully simply because I want to see what if I can pick together patterns. But the problem is that anything that our government wants to oppose, our federal government wants to oppose, I'm all for it. If they don't like that Texas wants to put this bill together, good for Texas and good for the citizens of Texas because they're doing something opposing what has been transpiring over the years. So that's my number one issue. I got others, but I could ramble forever, and then Frosty's going to be doing this to me. So, and
Well, I was waving at L actually is what I was doing.
well,
Hey,
I'd
Swamp
wave at
Dog,
L
thanks, bud.
too.
Hey,
I'd
so
wave
I'm
at
going
L.
to do this. I want you guys to start entering in chat. Start putting hi, how you doing? Do whatever it is. Just put something in chat. I'm going to be giving away a silver peace dollar, 1923 peace dollar. I need you to do me a favor and put stuff in chat. Let people know that you do this. Make sure you're smashing that like. If you haven't subscribed, please do me a favor. I am only a few away from 5K, or actually, well, it's a couple hundred, but still not too far away. Please do me a favor, consider subscribing. If you like this, share it out. Let people know that you like this. We're going to be talking about this more. But again, if you're interested in this, please do me a favor. Start typing in chat. Let me know that you want to do this giveaway. We'll give that away here in about 10 minutes. I'll do a drawing and I'm going to take from here, I'm going to reach out. So make sure that you have a way to get contacted. I'll announce it at the end of the stream. I'll do a random generator, but I'm going to be pulling it from chat. So make sure that you are entering the stuff into chat. So I appreciate you very much. So far, we've had like 15 people subscribe during the stream. Thank you so much for doing that. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. All right. So Tiger expressed one of his concerns, and that is he doesn't trust government. But the other one is the fact that this gives people an opportunity to control their money. I have a couple other concerns, and this is particular to Texas. Number one, you're going to give the comptroller the opportunity to manage this. So in this language, and I'm going to bring up this language again real quick. There's a very subtle piece of language that is listed in here. And again, I want to read this to you, so I'm going to minimize this a little bit. But one of the things that it states in here is, let me find it real quick. Depository fractional gold units in equal redemption. Person's request. Hold on, let me find this. Appropriation, not available for legislative appropriation. Okay, this is important. Okay, so I'm going to read you this verbatim. I want you guys to listen very carefully to this. This is extremely important, but your guys' spider senses should be tingling right now as I read this. Certain money and deposits held in trust and not subject to legislative appropriation. It's section 404A.0057. It says the money received under section 404A.0053A, gold or silver specie or bullion purchased at deposited pooled depository account provided by section whatever, and money received in the sale of gold or silver specie or bullion in the pooled depository account held by the comptroller and trustees is outside the state treasury and not available for legislative appropriation. Sounds really nice. Sounds really good. But the question that I have is this appropriation. I'm going to minimize, I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. And I'm going to see if I can bring this up. There we go. This is exactly what I'm sharing right here. And I want you to read this area right here. This is the section that I'm just sharing with you right now. I'm going to leave this up here for a minute and let you read this. What's important here, the question that I have is this Texas legislation or is this federal legislation? Are you saying that the feds can't touch this? Are you saying that this is totally against any kind of legislative appropriation? It's a serious question. Everybody who reads this had better ask that question. The next thing that's not listed under here that is a major concern to many stackers who might watch this is, what about executive order? Does this fall under the pretense of an executive order, or is it protected from it? Does the state have the authority to overrule an executive order? These are two major questions that I have, and I've posed these to the powers that be, hopefully getting an answer soon. But folks, when you read this, you need to be thinking about stuff that not only, oh my God, it sounds great, and I am all for this, but I have some serious questions before I make up my mind, indicating that I'm going to look at going forward with this. I want to know this legislative appropriation. Is this talking about federal, and is this preventing the executive order from coming in and doing what happened in that 33, where they said, hey, we're going to turn this over? Azure says no. Well, maybe, but the state has the availability to create its own laws and its own rules to a certain degree. Can they have self protection? Can the state say, in this case, we are not going to do this because we have our own state law that states this is approved and it's protected from any appropriation? Do they have that authority? This is a question I really want to make sure that we do. Now you say unequivocally no. I want to validate that, right? And I'm not questioning you, but I want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, because if that's the case, that means that in no fashion, in no way do we have any protections for any of our precious metals but to own it ourselves.
One of the
Stocks, bonds, crypto, anything kind of whatever. You went to law school, say, oh, outstanding, as you're perfect. Okay. No state law can usurp federal. That's great to know. That was one of my major questions. My biggest question in that was, can this be done? Because if not, then you guys need to understand that as nice as this is, there's still a potential problem. And that potential problem is that if something happens like the pre 33, where an executive order comes to say, you own this, the only recourse you have is if you personally have it. People say, well, no, that's not true. Well, how much pre 33 is out there? This is why I collect pre 33, right? So people had it, people stored it. Now, there was a rule about how much you could have. You could have no more than $100, I believe it was. Forgive me if I'm a little wrong on that. The law must be constitutional. Yep, I understand that. But again, there's just some questions. So even as nice as this sounds, it doesn't prevent executive override. So remember, keep that in mind. Okay. Even though they protect us, it's backed on silver or gold, the executive branch has the authority to reach in and grab that. That should be one of your major concerns. So
my que-
again, when you're looking at this, unfortunately, most of my gold was lost in an unfortunate boating accident years ago. So I don't have very much. Um, and so, anyway, I said I was going to give this out. So I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to do this. In order to be eligible for this, when this ends, you need to go into this video's chat and put peace dollar. Okay? You're going to put peace dollar. I am going to, and you're going to see Frostbite coins. It's going to be me. I'm going to be the only person. Don't let anybody else tell you that you won because if it's not my name and I'm not on there and I didn't say that you did it, you're not going to get it. But, and he's not, no, 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 I'm going to hide him. Let's see, remove from, there we go. There we go. We'll just remove him, get him out of here. Just kidding, Tiger. Um, he's just playing with me. But make sure that you put that in there because I'm going to pull from chat the winner. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to pull all the names from chat that have been put in there. And I am going to do a wheel. I will do this wheel so everybody can see it. I will make that live and then we will do that. Dot biz, do you by chance have those coordinated over the water? Not quite what that means.
I
You're gonna
think
have to
we
help me
talking about
understand what that
the things talking about is your boating accident.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Uh, my unfortunate boating accident. No, unfortunately, I do not have the coordinates where my unfortunate boating accident occurred. But I am very grateful for the team that rescued me from the water. So, yep,
I got a
immediately
quick.
following the live, just go into the comment, click on that, go to my channel, find this video. It's going to be in the lives. Click on this, find that item, go into the comments, and make sure that you say peace dollar. Okay, that's how I'm going to do this. So you want to be eligible for that. That's how you're going to have to get this. Okay, sound good? All right, folks. After this
One more
live,
thing.
yes.
I'm gonna put my name in there, and if I come up, I'll throw this piece dollar on top of your piece dollar.
Outstanding. So you have two opportunities to win a peace dollar, one from me, one from Tiger. Again, do me a favor if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. Go find Tiger Stacker and make sure you're subscribing to him. Also, make sure you're smashing that like. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here and coming in. We're going to do this more as we find out more information, as we get more on this. Hopefully, the people that I have reached out to reach back out to me and say that they're interested in doing this. We're going to wait for Delegate Chris Pritt and make sure that um, we find out from there, see if we can do this. That would be really cool. If he'd be willing to talk about it, maybe we can have a couple different people up to talk about this. But stay tuned. Make sure you're hitting that notification bell so when we go live, we talk about this and we will be coming live to you soon again. All right, type Tiger's peace dollar in the chat. Again, immediately following the live stream. All right, folks. Tiger, do you have anything to say before we go?
Something I want to talk about on a future video, a future live stream. Executive Order 6102, and whether or not it is still in effect because of uh, President Ford's executive order. Did
If
his
you don't
did
know what that is, look it up. We'll talk about it later. All right,
yeah.
folks. Peace
Enough
out,
said.
Tiger. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for
All right,
everything.
ladies and gentlemen, this is Tiger. I am Frostbite, and I will see you in the stream.